My career ended the day I published a paper on viral gene sequencing that my superiors deemed too speculative. I was a biologist, a good one, but I refused to play by the rules. So I was quietly pushed out of academia, relegated to teaching entry-level courses at a community college. Then, one rainy Tuesday, a black government car pulled up outside my small apartment. The man inside didn't give his name. He simply offered me a choice: continue my slow decay or accept a decision that would not only restore my reputation, but place me at the forefront of the most important biological discovery in human history. The catch? The work was top secret. The location was non-negotiable. I would be flown to Odessa, then taken by military helicopter to a location he would only describe as offshore. I would have no contact with the outside world for 6 months. He called it Project Poseidon. He told me they needed my specific expertise, my willingness to explore unconventional biological models. It was a perfectly tailored appeal to my ego and my desperation. I didn't ask many questions. A man with nothing to lose is capable of making very foolish, very quick decisions. A week later, I was watching the gray, choppy waves of the Black Sea from the window of a helicopter, flying towards a featureless speck on the horizon. Zmyny Island, Snake Island. I didn't know it then, but I wasn't just flying to a new job. I was descending into a secret that had been festering in the dark for over 40 years.
The surface installation on Snake Island was just a facade, a communications tower and some barracks. The real facility, the Poseidon Lab, was 200 meters below the seabed. The descent in the submersible elevator was a journey into another world. The pressure, the silence, the crushing weight of the ocean above, it was designed to make you feel small, isolated. The lab itself was a marvel of engineering. Sterile white corridors, humming machinery, and a constant low thrum of the water recyclers. I was met by the director, Dr. Alina Volkova. She was a woman who seemed carved from ice, sharp, intelligent, and utterly devoid of warmth. Her eyes analyzed me not as a colleague, but as a component being added to a complex machine. She led me to the central containment chamber. "This is why you are here, Dr. Moroz," she said. In the center of the room, suspended in a shimmering containment field, was sample Omega. It was the size of a human heart, a pulsating organic mass that defied classification. It glowed with a soft internal golden light. Its surface was a complex, shifting pattern of iridescent tissue. They told me it was a unique, previously unknown deep-sea extremophile. My gut, the same instinct that had ruined my career, screamed that this was a lie. This thing had never been a part of Earth's evolutionary tree. It was something else entirely. To understand Omega, Volkova said, I first had to understand its discovery. She granted me access to a single classified file, the audio log of the K-219, a Soviet deep-sea submarine dated November 1983. I put on the headphones, and the clinical silence of the lab was replaced by the hiss of old magnetic tape and the tired voice of a Soviet submarine commander. Sound of old audio crackling. Log entry, 14 November 1983. Captain Valery Orlov reporting. Sonar has detected an anomaly on the seabed. The geometry is wrong. Not a shipwreck, not a geological formation. The angles are impossible. We are descending to investigate. His voice grew tense as he described what they found. It wasn't a vessel of metal and rivets, but something that looked like a fallen cathedral made of bone. It was vast and clearly of non-human design. Most of it was destroyed, but one section was intact. We are deploying the manipulator arm to retrieve a small, glowing object from the wreckage. There was a long pause, filled with the sounds of straining hydraulics and tense Russian whispers. The object is secured. It is pulsing, as if it is alive. Suddenly, the entire wreck is resonating. A seismic shock. We are losing stability. Surface now. The log ended abruptly with the sounds of alarms and shouting. That was it. They never went back. They left the strange cathedral to fester in the dark, but they brought its heart back with them.
My work began. For weeks, I was lost in a state of pure scientific euphoria. Omega was a biological miracle. It wasn't a parasite. It wasn't a virus. It was a perfect symbiote. When I introduced its cellular material to a sample of human tissue, the results were staggering. It didn't just coexist, it optimized. It sought out damaged cells and repaired them. I watched in awe as it targeted cancerous growths, breaking them down and rewriting their flawed DNA into healthy tissue. It halted the process of cellular aging completely. It was the fountain of youth, the cure for cancer, the holy grail of biology, all contained in one impossible golden artifact. I wrote my reports with a trembling hand, convinced I was on the verge of a Nobel Prize, of changing the world forever. The applications were infinite. Humanity could be free of disease, could live for centuries. We were on the cusp of a golden age. There was just one thing that bothered me, a tiny anomaly I couldn't explain. In every perfected cell, the mitochondria, the cell's power source, emitted a faint, rhythmic energy signature that wasn't there before. It was a whisper of a signal, too faint to be a threat, I told myself. It was probably just a benign byproduct of the process. I was wrong. The euphoria began to fade, replaced by a creeping unease. It started with small observations. The senior staff at Poseidon, they were different. It was nothing you could pinpoint. They were unnaturally calm, even during high-stress simulations. Their movements were efficient, economical, lacking any wasted gestures. Sometimes, when they thought no one was watching, I'd see two of them across a room turn their heads in perfect, unnerving synchronicity. And their eyes. It was almost imperceptible, but in certain light, I could see it. A faint, shimmering golden sheen deep within their irises. I started spending my nights secretly accessing the station's medical records. Every senior staff member, including Director Volkova, had a classified file. They had all, months or years ago, undergone something called omega prophylaxis, a therapy. I realized the truth with a cold dread that washed over me in the sterile silence of my cabin. The therapy was real. The cure worked. But there was a side effect, one they hadn't put in any official report. It wasn't a physical ailment. It was a change in the very essence of who they were. The perfect symbiote didn't just heal the body, it was doing something to the mind. Volkova called me into her office. The usual clinical coldness was gone, replaced by a serene, almost beatific calm. "Your work has been exemplary, Ivan," she said, her golden-flecked eyes meeting mine. "You see its potential. You see the future it offers." She gestured to a medical chair in the corner of the room. "You've been chosen to be a part of that future. You have earned the right." It wasn't an order, it was an invitation. She spoke of a greater clarity, a unified purpose, a release from the chaotic noise of individual consciousness. She described it as the next logical step in human evolution, a duty to one's country and one's species. Her voice was smooth, reasonable, persuasive, and that was the most terrifying part. There was no threat, no weapon, just the calm, unblinking certainty of a predator disguised as a savior. The pressure in the room was immense. It was the silent pressure of an entire system, an entire belief structure wanting me to conform. I was being offered a place among the new gods. All I had to do was surrender my soul. I told her I needed time to consider the implications. It was a weak excuse, but it bought me a few precious hours. I locked myself in my lab, my heart pounding against my ribs, and I went back to the one thing that had bothered me from the start, the anomalous energy signature. I bypassed the standard lab protocols, running a deep-level quantum scan on the Omega sample itself, pushing the lab's equipment to its absolute limit. For hours, all I got was static. Then a pattern emerged. A weak, complex, but coherent signal. It was a broadcast, a constant, low-frequency transmission. It wasn't meant for radios or computers. It was psychic, biological. It was designed to resonate with the perfected mitochondria in the cells of the hosts. The horror of it settled in my stomach like a block of ice. Omega wasn't just healing its hosts, it was connecting them. The signal was a network protocol, weaving their individual minds into a single, vast, distributed consciousness. It was a hive mind. Individuality, with all its chaotic beauty and flaws, was being systematically erased and replaced by a cold, unified will. They were becoming one.
If they were a network, there had to be a server, a list of nodes. Using Volkova's stolen credentials, I burrowed deep into the Poseidon project's secure mainframe. Most of the files were impenetrable, encrypted beyond my abilities, but one directory was carelessly mislabeled Prophylaxis Logistics. My blood ran cold. It wasn't a list of patients, it was a list of assets, and it read like a who's who of the nation's elite. Generals from the high command, government ministers, CEOs of major industrial and tech companies, media moguls. It was all there in black and white. Dates, locations of treatment, and a status report. Integration, 98%. Integration, complete. This wasn't a scientific endeavor. It was a silent, bloodless coup that had already happened. The gift of eternal health was the price of admission, the tool of conversion. Our country wasn't being run by men and women anymore. It was being run by puppets, their strings pulled by the golden intelligence humming away in this very lab. I wasn't just in a secret facility, I was in the nest of a new ruling class, and I was the only one left who could see them for what they were. I had to know the endgame. What was the purpose of this silent conquest? I initiated a final, desperate scan of Omega's core, looking for a root command, a mission statement. I found it, buried under layers of biological code, a message not meant for human eyes. It was a star map, a route from a distant, unknown star system to our own, and next to it, a timer, a galactic countdown. The translation of the core directive was simple and devastating. Omega was a terraforming tool, but it wasn't designed to change the planet's atmosphere or environment. It was designed to change the dominant species, to pacify it, unify it, and make it compliant. The perfection of the hosts, the creation of the hive mind, it was all a preparation protocol, a way of tidying the garden before the masters returned. The directive's final words sent a chill through my soul. It referred to the artifact's creators not as conquerors or invaders, but as the sowers. They had planted this seed on Earth millennia ago and were now finally coming to see what had grown. And the timer, ticking down silently in the heart of the artifact, was set to reach 0 in less than 72 hours. Suddenly, the power in my lab cut out and the emergency lights bathed the corridor in a blood-red glow. The door slid open. It was Volkova,
flanked by 2 security guards. They didn't carry weapons. Their hands were empty, hanging loosely at their sides. They just stood there, blocking my only exit, and they were smiling. Not a human smile, but a serene, placid expression of absolute confidence. In the red light, their golden eyes seemed to burn. "You were not supposed to see that, Yvonne," Volkova said, her voice echoing slightly in the silent lab. It was the same voice, but now I could feel the chorus behind it, the weight of the entire hive mind speaking through her. "But it does not matter. All that matters is that the garden is ready. The harvest is at hand." She took a step forward, and in her hand she held a syringe. It was filled with a swirling liquid gold, a pure dose of the omega serum. "It is time to join us," she said, her smile never faltering. "Don't fight it. Be a part of this glorious moment. The sowers will be so pleased to see how well we have prepared this world for them.